Have you ever wanted to know what a cash secured put is? Well, look no further. I'm going to give you the complete definition, complete explanation. By the end of this video, you're going to have no questions. You're going to understand exactly what a cash secured put is. So watch on. I'm going to cover it out for beginners. The first thing I want to hit up here is that there's other names for this. And sometimes there's confusion when you have different names. You don't know what to call things. Well, a cash secured put is also called a put right. It's called a short put. It's called a naked put, and it's called get paid to buy. These are all names that you might hear when hearing about cash secured put. I prefer cash secured put. That's why I titled this video. I don't even know if it's the most common, but that's the name that I like to. Now, let's go ahead and break it down as to what it is. It's when you sell a put option and receive a premium on a stock that you already want to own. Now, before I get any further, I want to explain why it's a stock that you already want to own. Because when you're selling puts, there's a very strong possibility that you will own this stock. And so you want to choose a stock that is one that you really love and that you absolutely want to buy and that you would buy anyways. And it's also a stock that you believe is going to go up in value. So in short, you want to be selling puts on a very good stock. All right, now let's go ahead and keep going. You set enough cash to buy the stock. And what that means is you're going to have enough cash to buy 100 shares of the stock. So if the stock is $10, you have to have $1,000 in your account. If the stock is $100, you have to have $10,000 in your account. Very simple math because every option is 100 shares. And so now, if the stock stays above the strike price, you get to keep your premium and you don't buy the shares. And if it goes below the strike price, it will trigger an assignment where you will have to purchase the shares. This part might be a little bit boring, but don't worry. You need to know this stuff, but I'm going to make them 6 quick, simple, easy, fun definitions. The first one is a put option. What is a put option? Well, a put option gives the buyer the right, not the obligation, to sell a stock at a certain price called the strike price. We're going to talk about strike price in a future definition. As the seller, you're agreeing to buy the stock if the buyer chooses to exercise their right and the buyer wants protection and you're offering that protection for a fee. And the way that they choose the right to get it is if price drops below. Don't worry, I'm going to keep explaining how that whole thing works. Now, the next definition that I want to talk about is premium. The premium is the cash payment that you receive up front. So really, premium's just money. Money, 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 money. You get to keep the money, right? And you keep this premium no matter what happens in this trade. That's why people love selling these puts, is you get money. Okay, and that's simple. If the stock stays above the strike, you keep the money, you keep the premium. And I use these definitions because that's what you're going to hear. I like to use the term money, but I don't use that because in the industry, everybody says premium, so I'm teaching you what that means. If the stock drops below, you have to buy the shares at the price, but you still get to keep the premium. Don't worry, I'm going to go into all that. Okay, more definitions. Contract, an options contract. It's a legal obligation. It's a legal agreement between the buyer and the seller, and each contract typically represents 100 shares of the underlying stock. Now, I didn't use a special definition of underlying, but really underlying, when you sell an option, there's always a stock that you're using. And, you know, like if we're going to use Apple is the underlying stock that you're trading the option on. So that's a term I didn't include, but I'm throwing it in as a bonus definition, underlying. Now, when you sell a cash secured put, you're selling one contract, and that means it's 100 shares. More definitions. Strike price. You're going to hear that term a lot. What is a strike price? Well, the strike price is the agreed upon price that you're willing to purchase the shares at when you sell your option. So when you sell your option, you're going to choose a strike price, and that's the price that you're going to have to buy the shares at if the price dips below. That's simple. Now, assignment. Assignment is a fun one. Assignment in options trading, it's not like you're going to home school and you're having to do a homework assignment. That's not the kind of assignment we're talking about. It's when the options buyer chooses to exercise the right to buy their shares back, right? You're going to have to buy shares off of them now, right? And it means that if the price goes below the strike, which we defined in the previous slide, now you have to buy those shares. That simple. And yes, you have to do this every time that you go below. Okay, now last definition, but this is a good one, and this is the expiration date. Every single put option will have an expiration date, and that is when it expires. And if it expires above the price, it's going to be worthless and the put goes away. If it expires below the strike price, that's when you buy the shares. But it always happens by an expiration date. And you can do daily, you can do weekly, you can do monthly, you can do way out. Long-term options called leaps, which are a year long, you can do those as well. So again, after this date, that's the expiration date of when the option expires. And as a side note, most options expire on Fridays. What happens to a cash secured put after an expiration? This is really the meat of selling cash secured puts. This is what the whole thing's about, this little simple image. The stock price, the underlying, we could call that underlying price of the stock, stays above the strike price, which is this line here. This is the strike price. Okay, now if the price stays above the strike, then you keep the premium, but you do not buy the shares. Okay, now here we go again. If the price goes below, the stock price goes below the strike, which is this line here, then you keep the premium, but you also have to buy the price, the shares at the strike price. Okay, and remember, each option contract is 100 shares. So again, just to re-emphasize it in a different way, the strike price, it stays above, you keep the full premium, no stock is purchased. Best case scenario, why is that best case scenario? Because you want to rotate it and sell them all day long. That's how we make money. If the price falls below, well, you're going to have to be assigned the strike. Now do you see why we did the definitions? Now you're assigned the stock at the strike price and you keep the premium collected up front. Okay, so but you're getting the stock at a discount and you can continue to generate income by selling covered calls. I have an entire video on covered calls. Check that out. I have the link in the description and maybe even up here. Check it out after this video. Okay, but watch this whole one first. In both scenarios, you win. You will either earn cash or buy stock at a better price while still keeping the cash. This is what we call a cash secured put, but it's really just a limit order. And some of you might be going, what's a limit order? Well, a limit order is where you buy a stock price at a set income or set price, but there's no income involved. Where a cash secured put is you're buying a limit order, but you're getting paid, right? So if you do a limit order, you want to buy the stock at 58, price goes down to 58, you buy the stock. A cash secured put, price goes to 58, you get $75, right? But both want to buy the stock at $58. So this is a better way to set a limit order. And here's a chart example. Okay, you think that this is support down here. You want to buy the stock down here. Well, sell a put instead of buying the stock, and you get that income. So I'm going to do a real trade example here. Let's go with KO, which is Coca-Cola. It's a great stock for cash secured puts. Now, if you sell a $58 put on Coke and the stock stays above $58, you keep the premium. No assignment happens. If the stock price drops below 58, you get to buy at a discount and you get to keep the premium. So let's explain what the risk to reward is here. The blue line is the max gain. That's the premium you get. And if the strike stays up there, you get to keep the full premium. As price breaks below, the strike price, then you begin to lose value. And the further below the strike price, the more you're going to lose. And that's because your shares that you're going to be purchasing will be below what the price is. So, for example, if price falls down to $56 in that previous example, you have to buy the shares at 58, so you're already $2 below. You're only going to take a profit or a loss. You're only going to take a loss if you close the trade. If you hold the shares, you're not losing any money, which is a big benefit on this. And so the way we calculate what we call the cost basis, that's the price that you're actually paying for the shares. You take your strike price, you're paying $58 a share, plus the $75 in premium. You subtract that, and you're actually paying $57.25. So you're getting a discount. And remember, you're taking a loss if it goes below $57.25 because that's what you paid for the shares. However, you're not actually taking a loss unless you sell the shares. That's why it's a win, because we're expecting the shares to go up. This is Coca-Cola. Everybody is always going to be drinking pop, right? Maybe not always, but even if they don't, they're going to be selling healthier drinks, right? This is a great company. This is why we use cash secure puts. I created something called the Freedom Income Engine. We sell the put, we get assigned, we sell covered call, then the stock gets called away, and we just repeat the loop over and over, and we're always making revenue. I've got a video about covered calls you can check out. A lot of people will ask me, who's on the other side? Who's paying? Well, you're selling the put, and you get your premium up front, and then there's the buyer, the put buyer. He's paying you, he or she is paying you the premium up front. And so they're trying to hedge or speculate. They make money if the price goes down. They are making a bet that price is going to go down, and they don't want to put up the full amount just to sell the shares short. They want to sell the option, sell you the option. You're buying it off of them, or you're selling it to them, and they're paying you. And that way, if the price of the option drops, if the stock drops, you're going to have to buy it off of them, and they make money, right? They make money on that. So they're speculating, and they're using it as a hedge. They're using it as insurance, and they're also using leverage with the option to keep the price so they can make a profit. One more time, I've said this, but I want to make it very clear. Price stays above the strike price, you make money, you don't buy the stock. Price goes below, you get assigned, and each one's 100 shares. So this is a great strategy for earning income weekly. Buy stocks that you love at a discount, grow your account, or 1% a week. I'm targeting 1% a week. And I am teaching 100,000 people to replace their income. Our community is doing great. And so if you want to learn the full training, you can join live. We do it this Thursday. We do it every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. The link is in the description. Learn the full income system step by step. Also, please leave me a comment, a question, feedback. I'm always making these, and I want to make them better and better. And I'm on a mission to help as many people as I can. So give me your feedback. Let me know what other content you want me to do, and I will get started on it right away. Thanks a lot. See you in the next video.